them.
Our adversaries are trying to undermine our country on a persistent and regular basis, whether it's election season or not. Consistently, Russia attempted to interfere with the last election and continues to engage in malign influence operations to this day.
That is FBI Director Christopher Wray. He reaffirmed today that Russia is still trying to meddle in U.S. elections. He listed the steps the U.S. is taking to stop current threats and stop any new ones.
And former White House Chief Information Officer under President George W. Bush and cybersecurity expert Theresa Payton joins us live via Skype to talk about this and more. Good evening, Theresa.
Thanks for having me on. Good evening.
So we've heard back and forth about the role that there would be. Would there be meddling? Would there be a hack attack on the midterms coming up? Is there a sense that the administration right now and the government at large is not taking the steps necessary to protect the system?
You know, I think it's one of the things. I heard all the right things today. I watched the press conference, and I know DHS has worked very hard with the states. But because the threat is so pervasive and the fact that the Russians are changing their tactics, we're running out of time. Time's not our friend, and there's still so much work to do. And the one thing that did concern me was hearing people say, well, we're not seeing them attacking the same way they did last time at the same pace. They may just be testing out new tactics and waiting until right before the midterms to try out something new that we haven't seen before.
Theresa, I want to get your reaction or response today to the show of force that we saw. We saw those five very important people come out today and stand up and say, hey, this is what we're doing to stop this. Do you think this was sort of cleaning up after that press conference in Helsinki and the president's back and forth, or was this just something else?
No, I really do think this is related to, there was a little bit of surprise and dismay from the intelligence and security community around sort of the Helsinki meeting and saying that, Putin said he didn't do it, and people felt like there was a little bit of dialing back. And so it was really good today to see that show of force. Talk is really important. Having a united front that's nonpartisan, also incredibly important. Every signal we send right now needs to be very strong and very deliberate, not just to the Russians, but to other syndicates who are meddling in elections around the world. And it's not just the Russians doing it, but the Russians certainly have one of the most sophisticated playbooks.
FBI Director Wray had a few more things to say. Let's listen.
Targeting U.S. officials and other U.S. persons through traditional intelligence tradecraft, criminal efforts to suppress voting and provide illegal campaign financing, cyber attacks against voting infrastructure along with computer intrusions targeting elected officials and others, and a whole slew of other kinds of influence, like both overtly and covertly manipulating news stories, spreading disinformation, leveraging economic resources, and escalating divisive issues.
Theresa, you served in Bush 43's administration, and it's amazing to see how much the game has changed since then, because we didn't have social media everywhere 8, 9, 10 years ago. When you look at how this all played out and the problems that you dealt with, it's got to be striking just to see how everybody stepped up their game.
No, it really is striking. And now there has been a clear and present danger around targeting of election infrastructure, whether it's websites, voter registration databases, trying to get to the election booths. That has been there, and that has been there for over a decade. But the social media sentiments, sort of the hacking of how people think about things, whether or not they become disenfranchised, stay at home, or whether or not they decide mentally that they're going to change their vote when they go to the voting booth. That whole disinformation campaign, they used to do that, but it was a ground game. It was very expensive. They didn't know for sure if it was really working. Now they can match the ground game with an incredibly inexpensive, very fast social media political espionage game, and they know through your and my likes and retweets and reposts whether or not it's working.
Right. Well, let's hope that the solutions they are working on right now are indeed solutions and they will stop this. Theresa Payton, cybersecurity expert, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.